Hi there, this is going to be a tutorial for Fly Like an Eagle by Steve Miller Band. I made a cover of this on my YouTube channel back in 2012, so it's a while ago now, about 9 years, and I still play this song all the time, and but I play it a little differently than I did in the video. Actually, I just had to listen to the video just a few minutes ago, just to kind of remind myself of the things that I played there, so I can talk about some of those concepts, if that's where you're coming from that particular video. And I'll talk about the ways that I do it now as well, and some of the changes maybe that I've made, and ways of approaching the song. So the song's in the key of A minor. It looks like it's in the key of A minor. The way that I think about it, it's like A minor Dorian, which means that the chord changes are primarily rooted around the A minor 7, and either the D7 or the D9. We'll talk about those chords. Other than the chorus section of the song, where it changes a little bit, there's a bit more modulation in that section. But throughout the verses and the solo sections, it's all A Dorian. And what that basically means is that we have the key signature of G major. So, which is like G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. G, F sharp is the only weird note. So but we don't even really play, we don't root anything to the G major chord. Everything's rooted to the A chord, but we're using that G major scale, which makes it sound like Dorian, A Dorian. Oops, that's better. This is kind of the foundational scale shape here that we'll use. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into the solo, but that's just a good thing to think about harmonically as you think about this whole song. And there's a whole bunch of songs that I do that are similar to this, like Vultures and No Diggity and Doin' Time. Those are all covers that are on my YouTube channel that all follow the same kind of Dorian concepts and also rhythmically funky kind of style with the right hand. So so this one though, we start off with a little riff. I take this right from the original Steve Miller Band recording. So this is a riff that starts on the A string of the 7th fret, and it goes chromatically up from the E to the F sharp. So that's the A string, 7, 8, and 9th frets. And then I jump back, the index finger barring the D and the G string, so squeezing down on both of those strings at the 5th fret, and I kind of push on it like that to staccato the sound. And then I do kind of the same riff, but instead of picking this sequence, I do a hammer-on, and then bar the 7th fret back to the 5th fret on the D and the G strings. So and that final variation is just a hammer on from 7 to 9 on the A string, and then going to the D and G string and holding it there. I'm going to repeat that again. And then we get into the groove. This is basically A minor 7. I'm playing it as a thumb chord. You don't have to do this, but I'll talk about this the way that I do it. So the thumb is rooted on the E string at this 5th fret, ring finger to the A string, 7th fret, and the index finger squeezes down, kind of hyperextends. It's a really good thing to work on, is being able to hyperextend that first finger so that you can get good bar coverage like that. So, and I exclude the high E string. You don't hear that note. Then I move that shape basically down to the G position. So the thumb goes to G, 3rd fret, E string. Ring finger still stays in the A string, 2 frets over on the 5th fret. And then the only difference is that I'm adding my middle finger to the G string here. And those are pretty much the only notes that you're hearing. I do still have my index finger in place. So you might kind of hear the B string, but the D string is muted. We're not hearing the D string there at the F position, even though it looks like it's positioned there. So these are nice. If you bar them, that's kind of what it can end up sounding like. You'll start to hear that high E string if you play it this way with the index finger laid across the 5th fret. So, but if I play them as thumb chords, I find that I can control the bottom half, the lower half of the chord a little bit more, and I don't hear so much those higher sounds. But there are, you can. You just have to be a bit more careful with your pick to make sure you're not going all the way through to that high E string. Either way, it still sounds good. So that's it. So that's the whole groove. But then we also have almost kind of like this drum beat thing, and this is going to be really important throughout the whole song, is having this 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and that emphasis on beat 3 is important. It sounds like the snare drum, and if there was a drum beat playing that, or a drummer, sorry, playing that would be the snare hit. I also kind of scoop the upstrokes, emphasize those sometimes too. Creating that texturized playing is what makes it sound funky. So you don't even need the chord to work on that, because actually a lot of where it's happening is on a muted chord. There's just those shots. There's actually way more strums that are happening muted like that. So to practice this, just close your hand on the strings. And you can get different sounds from just strumming the bottom half of the strings or the top half of the strings. Emphasize strums either on the downbeats or on the offbeats. You can have little triplets and stuff in there. I spend a lot of time practicing these kinds of things. And so I'll just take a chord and groove on it, and I'm just squeezing it down where I want those little accents to be. And I can use that G chord if I want and go back over there, or I can just use little other sounds like this, adding the F sharp. Remember, we're in Dorian. That F sharp note is going to be really important, so we can add that note. We can add the B as well, the high E string 7th fret, or the B string 7th fret. Put the F sharp here, sounds cool too. Or I can do that kind of thing, where I'm kind of doing the D major triad, D, G, and B strings at the 7th fret. Back over to the C major triad on the 5th fret, same strings. And I'll even throw in the D7 chord, which is fretted like A string 5, D string 4, G string 5, and that's with the middle finger, index finger, and ring finger. You can either just have it like that, or you can add the pinky to the B string at the 5th fret, which turns it into a 9th, or you can have the high E string. And you can see chromatics like that, sounds really cool and funky. I'm also using kind of the pentatonic sounds underneath that A. If I'm using my thumb to play the bass note, I have all these notes that I can play. So I'm strumming, and you're only hearing the bass note and maybe the D string. That's it. Everything else is muted, and that's all muted by the shaft of my index finger underneath my fingertip, or kind of the edges of my thumb, or even kind of the shaft of the ring finger, the edges of the tip of the ring finger. So that's a big thing that I practice, is doing these kinds of grooves where I'm keeping that bass note involved, but I'm able to move around and phrase. It sounds very percussive and lively because that right hand is getting all that funky stuff in between with the muted strokes. It's one of my favorite styles of playing. It just feels sort of endless. I could just keep doing that forever and ever. I sometimes have to remind myself, like, oh yeah, we gotta stop the solo now. We gotta move on, bring it back to the song again, because I could just keep grooving on that for a long period of time. I'll just throw on the metronome and just play to that, and just groove, slow it down or speed it up, and try to push myself to come up with lots of different combinations of sounds using different chords, chord voicings. But even those are great. Just using the A minor, the G, the D7, or the D9. You could also use C major 7, or you could resolve it by going to the E7. All those chords are going to sound awesome. You could use B minor, that would be like the 2, and then go into the 5 chord on the E7. That. So that's all kind of the groovy stuff that I'm doing in the verse while I'm doing the, you know, time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. There's all these little fills and stuff that I put in. This is like famous, not famous, but like a fill that I play all the time. Starting the phrase with the high E string, and then bringing that G string back, 8, back to 7, pulling up to 5. And then doing another pull off 7 to 5 after that. And then 7 to 5 on the D string, pull off. Whoops. I might do that kind of a fill, A string, hammer on. It's 5, 6, 7. And then 5, 7 on the D string. Just go up to the root here, and then slide to the root on the B string, 8 to 10. It's just all really bluesy licks. That's another fill that I like to do. Just bring that chord, slide it right up. So I'm sliding into an A minor 9, which is like X on the E string, 12, 10, and then 12, 12, 12 on the G, B, and E strings. I'm just gonna kind of get in the chord position lower down and slide until I get into position. Kind of a fun little thing there. So I say that's kind of the secrets to the verse. And then in the chorus section, I think right before the chorus, I might kind of go D9, and then to the E7 sharp 9 chord. This is like the Jimi Hendrix chord. X, 7, 6, 7, 8. The middle, index, ring, and pinky fingers. That kind of resolves that. Back to that root chord again for the chorus, A minor 7 to this chord. This is like this is D over A. So these 3 fingers, I'm using middle, ring, and pinky fingers on the D, G, and B strings, all on the 7th fret, to play this. It's almost like an A chord that you would play down here, just all the way up at the 7th fret. So that chord is D, and the A string is ringing over top of it. So it's written as D/A. And then I make that minor, which is just like a traditional A minor chord shape up at the 7th, 6th, and 7th frets. First finger to B string, 6, ring finger to G string, 7, middle finger to D string, 7. Still with the open A, so it's like D minor/A. finishing on A minor 7, which is the D, G, and B strings at the 5th fret, using the index finger to squeeze them down. You can also use a substitution. In the video I don't do this, but I do this sometimes now. You can, instead of playing D minor, or the D minor slash A, instead of using that inversion, you could use this inversion. It sounds good. And resolve back to A minor. That inversion is D string 3 with the middle finger, G string 2 with the index finger, B string 3 with the ring finger. Still with the open A ring, back to A minor. I'm often doing them on the upstrokes, so it's like the down, and then up, down, 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 up, whoops, down, down, up. That's the emphasis point of that. Fly like an eagle to the sea. Fly like an eagle, let my spirit carry me. I want to fly like an eagle till I'm free. Fly right through the revolution. And you're back to that again. It's just that A minor, G, A minor, with some fills. And then for the solo section, it's pretty similar to what I was talking about with the groovy stuff that's happening in the verse. It's basically what's happening. I'm thinking A Dorian, remember that G major scale, but in the context of A minor. That's what gives us that Dorian sound. So it's mostly just over the A, and I'll just kind of play the root. Bring the riff back in, or I might just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1. So that's kind of what I'm thinking in my mind. Like, it's hard for me to do them both at the same time. But essentially, I'm just counting. I have a really good sense of how long that 8 count is after playing the 1 accent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Putting all my solos in that space. So that's what I practice a lot of the time. Put the metronome on and really stay locked into that count. Make sure I'm always coming back to that beat 1, and then I'm using the space that I have in between wisely, those remaining 7 beats, to be creative and to stay locked in and just to find some really cool phrases within that Dorian concept. So that's essentially the scale that I'm using, though, mostly. So that's E on the 5th, 7th, and 8th frets, A string on 5, 7, D string 4, 5, 7, G string 4, 5, 7, B string 5, 7, 8, E string 5, 7, 8. And then you can go up even higher. So I recommend, all I'm doing to know all of these scales, it's the G major scale all the way up. So that's all really important stuff to practice if you want to be good at your phrasing and your soloing, is to have a really good sense of the diatonic. That's what that is, that mode. It's a 7-note scale, the Dorian mode. All of the modes, whether it's Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian, all 7 modes, those are diatonic modes, meaning they have 7 notes. And so, but you don't have to use those. You can also use the pentatonic scales, which would be just the A minor, pentatonic, usually the first pentatonic scale everybody learns. There's 5 positions of that same pentatonic scale. I recommend anybody and everybody who wants to be a better guitar soloist to learn all of those pentatonic positions, all 5 of them up and down the neck really, really well. And to be able to fuse those with the diatonic scales as well, and be able to play kind of both types of scales back and forth. And then to challenge yourself and just be creative with your phrasing and how you're filling in ideas. I'm using a lot of chromatic notes. I might do that, like this note, F sharp is one I want to go to, but I'll play F just briefly. You know, those other notes just sound cool. They just make the phrases sound a little bit off kilter. So practicing those kinds of things, playing chromatics, working on your texture. By texture, I always just mean dynamics, kind of just the way that you're playing some notes harder, some notes softer. You know what I mean? Even a phrase like that. You can hear the texture in it, and if I just played, it has a different feel, right? So I play every single note the same hardness and softness, then it loses that sense of texture. I'll hit some notes really hard like that, or with a bit of a pinch harmonic. Pinching just being like your thumb is kind of coming from behind the pick and you're getting a bit of flesh on the string. So I'm just improvising all of this stuff, and all of that just comes from learning solos from my favorite guitar players, whether that's Stevie Ray Vaughan or Steve Miller or Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton. All these guys have spent hours and hours poring over solos, you know, and learning their licks by ear as well, not just like, you know, learning from tabs and stuff, like slowing it down. And like, you know, just playing one note over and over and over again. What was that note? That teaches you how to hear those solos. A lot of people say like, oh, I don't know how to play by ear. I need to use tabs. I need to learn by using tabs. You know, of course, you will always need to use tabs if you always depend on the tabs. You can develop your ear by playing small parts over and over and over again and memorizing what does that note sound like and finding that note one by one. Super rewarding. You know, it seems like, oh, I don't have enough time to do all of that, so I'd rather just learn it by tab. It's, you know, I think it will take less time in the future to learn songs if you can learn the skill, if you can learn how to play things by ear, you know, 5-10 years from now when you're much better at it. The time it will take you to learn things that other people are playing is going to be so much shorter than you having to sit, find a tab that you trust, and then sit and learn it by reading the tab and sorting it all out. So to me, that just seems so tedious doing it that way. You know, I understand the different position that I might be in, having the ear to be able to play that, but I think it's much wiser to really learn how to do that, learning to play by ear. That's why I don't often spend too much time talking about this is the way that I played the lick, or this is, you know, this is how to do it note by note. It's like, it's not really that rewarding for the student to learn it that way. You're much better off me showing you the scale that you need to play, the notes that I'm using, the concepts that I'm using to make it sound the way it does, and then you trying to build and craft your own phrases and improvise. Trust me, you will be it's far more rewarding to do it that way, to play that way, than to be like playing a solo, you know, note for note the way that I do it. And if you are wanting to do that, then sit down and slow the video down and learn it note by note and figure out those concepts, or figure out those exact phrases if you want to add those phrases into your vocabulary. A lot of the stuff that I do is very, very, very simple and straightforward, very pentatonic, or just maybe a little bit modal like that. I like to use like these little chord shapes and stuff too. I'll learn like little two-note double stop patterns within a scale. Whoops. So I'm just taking, each pair of strings and trying to play the correct notes within that scale. Whether that's like that or like that. Explore the scale, see what all those little chords that you can play. There's lots of fun little sounds that you'll be able to use. It's gonna sound like that. It sounds kind of ugly, but I'll be like, oh cool, what's that? Just that one sound doesn't sound like much at first, but it's like, no, if you use it, like it's like you can find really cool uses for it like that. And then I might switch kind of between the root chord and the 4 chord, which is A minor for the 1, D7 for the 4. You can hear me going from the 1 chord to the 4 chord, and it sounds a bit more, there's more harmonic variation, I guess, between it. And then at some point, I think in the video, I kind of do this kind of hybrid picking technique, where I'm playing the root with the pick, thumb on the left hand, and the right hand with the pick. Using the first finger to play the 5th fret on the B and G string, and then using the middle and ring finger over here to grab that. And that's all that's happening, just going back and forth. And then I'll go up to C, which on the left hand is like 8 with the thumb, and then the G and B string, G at 9, B at 8. And then up to D, which is at 10, 11, and 10. A minor, C, D. Then when I'm playing the C, I might reach back and play the first finger at the 7th fret, which is like C, or it's like D over C. Phrase there. Go down to the G, you can use all these chords. G, A, minor, B, minor, and then C major, D major, E minor. Find all these nice little sounds that you can use to make it more interesting with the harmony. And then at the end of it, I kind of keep going with that concept. And these are all, this is the A minor 9, I talked about it earlier. It's like the A string 12, D string 10, G string 12, B string 12. It's kind of the setup. And then I move it down, I keep the pinky and the ring finger kind of where they are. The ring finger slides down to the 11th fret. The index finger comes down to the 10th fret. The index finger goes to the 9th fret on the D string. So you have that chord to that chord. And then I'll switch the pinky ring finger. So the ring finger goes to the 11th fret on the G string. Ring finger goes to the 10th fret on the B string. I don't even know what these chords are. This is like G major 7. And then this is like G6 maybe? I don't even know. And then D9, which we talked about earlier as well, to C major 7, which is like X3, 5, 4, 5. And then I'll change it to that, which is like 3, 5, 4, 3, using the middle finger to play the B string. hybrid picking technique. Whoops. And that's over the E7 chord, X7, 9, 7, 9, 7. Pinky moves over to make it a suspended chord, move over to the 10th fret on the B string. It's a little hybrid picking riff. I talked about the C major 7 shape down here, 3, 5, 4, 5. Move that up to F, which is at 8, 10, 9, 10. To that E sus, E7 sus, to E7. Back to the groove. And that's basically it. So that's pretty much what I'm thinking about when I'm playing Fly Like an Eagle. With the chords and the kind of the different variations and parts, and also the approach to the solo with the Dorian mode, G major, like I said, with the F sharp. And yeah, so I encourage you to work on your groove, work on some of those strumming techniques and the texturizing your strums and getting some accents and emphasis points like that. Trying the thumb chords, using the thumb, get the thumb available to play some of these chords. And then soloing with the Dorian mode, coming up with your own phrases, using blue notes, make it sound jazzy, and also working on that, beat 1 and then playing the rest of the bar or 2 bars and counting and keeping a good sense of how much time you have left to finish your phrase before you need to come back to accenting that beat 1 again, the root chord. I think that's the biggest thing, or the biggest way to sound or to approach it the way that I do anyway in my version on YouTube. So yeah, so hope that was informative and helpful for Fly Like an Eagle. What a great classic song. So much you can do with it. So simple, but a really, really brilliant tune for sure. And so I hope you have some fun and give some of these concepts a try. See how you do. And I'll see you next time for another tutorial. Cheers.